let's be fair to the members who served in this parliament. They are pensionable in the first instance. I think that's one thing. They are already on a pension. So we are not giving them a pension. But the only thing we are doing is bringing that pension of the 6,000 to what is its present value today.
These are people, Mr. Speaker, you know, one time you'll be also a former member of parliament. And you will even miss money to buy medicine, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this is one bill that we must support it by all means.
This amount that we are increasing is basically to take care not of any luxury, but of the very, very basic needs, Mr. Speaker.
It will create a spiral effect within the civil service in that if the members of parliament can increase their pension to 100,000, what about us? What about those of us who are in the civil service?
But we discussed and agreed that we can shelve the arrears up to 2010, but allow these MPs to benefit.
Right, so those are the members of parliament as they spoke last Wednesday. Honorable Wanga, you're one of those that was speaking there. So I know the justification is that times have changed. These are men and women that serve the nation. But there's that question, if you're going to review the pension of someone who retired or went out of office a long time ago, doesn't that also have a ripple effect in the rest of the civil service or the public service? And what do you do when members of county assemblies now start to ask for similar issues, especially the councillors that served during that season?
Thank you, Sam. I think every request or every request that is brought forward as far as pensions and retirement benefits are concerned will be considered on a needs basis, because you find that even former councillors, as you say, have been, saying we retired and we do not have proper pensions, but even civil servants, would be raising could be raising similar issues. But the unique place that members of parliament, former members of parliament find themselves in, unlike in the civil service where you actually serve for a very long time and accumulate, pension over time, in parliament, because of the risky nature of the job, and that it's a contract that you have with the people, and we have said if you serve for 2 terms, you therefore, are eligible for pension. When you have served as a member of parliament, it is unlikely that you can even be hired by anybody else, after that service. So I think what I'd like to say as far as those pensions go is these members of parliament were not just removed from anywhere. They were pensionable in the first place. So they had already served for 2 terms during that period. And then the Akiwumi report and the Coker report came in to say what terms of service members of parliament, serving should serve in. And the Akiwumi team and the Coker team collected views, not just in the country, but also benchmarked with other jurisdictions and what they do as far as former members of parliament are concerned. The Akiwumi report was adopted by parliament in 2010. And the recommendations of that report have accrued, any benefits accruing from those recommendations have been given to members of parliament serving after 2000, after 2010. And therefore, this report was not, this move was not just off, the top of the head of members of parliament. It was based on the recommendations that were given by the Akiwumi and the Coker reports. So I'd like to say that what the Akiwumi report had recommended is actually these members should benefit from, all the way from 2010. But what we said is that given the prevailing economic conditions, we dropped that amendment so that it just begins from the current in 2020. Many of these members of parliament who served in 1984 are probably now 80 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years. So even the benefit will not be accruing for much more time. So I think that is the consideration that was there.
Okay, all right. And Honorable Boss, I don't know where you stand in as far as this is concerned, but I know you believe in fairness. Do you think it's fair to revise the pension for former elected officials and leave the civil service? Of course, they are subjected to the laws that are already existing. Is it fair?
I think here we are not comparing apple for apple. I do agree with Honorable Wanga on this. Because remember, civil servants have a retirement date of 65. But with members of parliament, each term is only 5 years. So you can't be compared with someone who's in a permanent and pensionable job until the age of retirement. And this has not just been something that has been decided recently. It has been as far back as, I forget the name of the fiery politician from Nyanza who had started this process. And the whole point was to free parliament, just so that parliamentarians are equal to any other civil servant, because even though their services for a shorter time, they still nevertheless have served the country. It undertook several reviews and reports and public participation in order to arrive at this particular bill. And therefore, it's not something that has been taken lightly. So I think people should understand that it's many years of research and public participation. It didn't take 1 year, it took several years. And for that reason, it's very well thought out. And it doesn't affect the civil service because they are different.
But Honorable Boss, bearing in mind that we experience the challenges of wage bill in this country, I know there are not so many, just about 370 if I'm not mistaken, but if we set this precedent so that even yourselves who are in parliament, at a time that maybe you're not re-elected, that now you are subjected to similar benefits, don't you think it's going to get out of hand at a time that Kenyans are still struggling with different issues of basic necessities?
You know that people contribute to the pension. You actually have an amount that is deducted from your own salary towards your pension. And then your employer participates by contributing also a certain amount. And usually the pension fund managers are able to invest this with that money in order to be able to have a chunk of money at the time when a person requires to be paid a pension. So yes, there's fund managers that do that. So it's not free money that's being dished. It's money it's a revolving fund that is built over time.
Okay, all right. Of course, we'll be expecting to be joined by Gonjiru Wambugu, the Member of Parliament for Nyeri Town, who will be joining the conversation. But before we do so, let's talk about parliamentary independence. And shortly we'll be looking at what has been happening at the Senate. But just a reminder, we know that for 7 times the Senate has tried to pass the revenue sharing formula among the 47 counties, but it hasn't been successful. As late as yesterday, there was supposed to be a meeting of some senators, I believe in Kiambu, but that was not to happen. The reports on the Standard are saying that it is a call from a senior official within the government. How do you feel at a time now that the ODM party, Honorable Wanga, some of you from the ODM party have now become chairpersons of the committees? Does this alter the strength of the opposition, and how do you continue to serve in your role to oversight the executive, which is by the majority party Jubilee?
I think Parliament, as was formed after the 2010 Constitution, left the opposition government, sort of framework. And that is why in a presidential system, the executive does not sit in Parliament. It is therefore the role of every member of Parliament to oversight the executive. And therefore, that is why we have the majority and the minority, rather than the opposition and the government. And then committees are given opportunity to elect members from among themselves. And usually the majority party has taken all the, chairmanships. And there's been the confusion that a chair of a committee represents the executive on the floor of the House. Far from the truth. The chair of the committee should be presenting the view of Parliament as far as the executive actions are concerned. And therefore, after the framework of the handshake, and this is a different political environment, then there was agreement that any member of Parliament within the committee can therefore now be allowed to chair. And it is a new approach. We will see how it works moving forward. But nothing outside of the law.
Oh, okay, all right. Of course, nothing out of the law. But before I get to Honorable Wanga, I want to still ask you this question because the reason why Honorable Boss is not a chairperson of the delegated chair of the delegated legislation committee is because of her position, and it is understood that she didn't represent the interest of the party. So chairpersons, understandably, in Parliament serve the interests of the executive or the party leader. Now you are a chairperson. I'm not sure that you'll be in a position to go contrary to what the executive wants or your party leader wants. How do you maneuver through that because you know what has befallen Honorable Boss?
My party, you know, Sam, we are not in church. We are in a political environment. And whatever happens within Jubilee, I do not want to comment. But I know that after the handshake, ODM is in a cooperation sort of arrangement, not coalition, just cooperation. We have said we want to work together to move the nation forward. Every proposal that is brought by the executive, and even Honorable Boss knows that many times when proposals are brought by the executive, people take different decisions, positions on it, and sometimes you support it based on the merit, sometimes you do not support it, and therefore, committees of Parliament all the time, they fail amendments that have been brought by the executive if they are not seen to be people friendly. And I think Boss has fallen on the basis of the politics within the Jubilee coalition and the feeling that the supporters of the deputy president now failed to support the cause that was agreed upon with the president, in the sense that I do not want to talk too much about it, but you could see that there is a fallout within Jubilee itself, because the president is saying, let us stop talking about 2022 politics. And the deputy president is continuing together with Boss and the other people. And that is what created the fallout within Jubilee. So it cannot be said, that there was anything to do with ODM or any other person. But the fallout was because the president wanted a certain direction, his deputy wanted a certain direction, and therefore the president said, let me work with like-minded, partners to move my agenda forward. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I see Honorable Boss is smiling. I'm tempted to give her a chance before I run another up sound. Just what's your response to this? Because Honorable Wanga thinks that you're punished for your quote-unquote wrongdoings politically.
I think all of us know if the crime was that we began to talk about 2022 and William Ruto's presidency in 2020, presidential bid in 2022, then I think they should also punish Murathe, punish Atuoli, because they are also mentioning Raila Odinga's presidency bid in 2022. I don't think it had to do anything to do with the fact that we did not support the president's agenda. I am on record and it can be confirmed. When the president wanted to push the housing regulations because it was part of the Big Four, I was one of the biggest advocates for it. Because as my party leader, I wanted to lend him support to be able to push an agenda that was the Jubilee agenda. When they were pushing for the increase of the debt ceiling in order to retire domestic loans that were too expensive and affecting our economy, we supported it because we believed in reducing the cost of loans by borrowing internationally other than locally, so that money can be released to SMEs within the country and therefore churn up economic development. So yes, we have been on record. So that has not been the reason. There might be a reason, but where I agree with Honorable Wanga is that it had nothing to do with ODM. It had something to do with Jubilee itself.
Okay. Honorable Boss, let me cut you short because we need to listen to Gunjiru Wambogo, the Member of Parliament for Nyeri Town, now joining us from Nyeri. Good morning, Honorable. And you are talking about the independence of Parliament. At a time now, we know that some of the committees are being led by members from your former opposition, that is the NASA coalition. Does this help the Parliament, especially at a time that we see even the Senate not being able to make certain decisions because there are calls being made from the party leaders? How do you maneuver through this arrangement of government?
Thank you very much. I think the first thing we need to appreciate is something. I want to pick up something that Gladys Wanga said, that Parliament, as currently constructed, doesn't have an opposition and government side. It has a majority and minority side. So the fact that it has reconfigured its committees and now has a couple of members of what you would call the opposition side leading several committees doesn't mean that it stops being able to do its work. Actually, maybe it might actually be a lot more effective or for it to be able to do its work now. And we need to remember that how you judge whether the parliament is effective or not is based on whether it is delivering what it is that is supposed to be delivering to the people of Kenya. In terms of, are we delivering services? Are we being able to make sure the money is, oversight is done effectively? Are we being able to represent the people who took us to parliament effectively? Those are the things, the parameters on which you judge whether parliament is being effective or not. It is not any other category of judgment. It is based on, are we delivering what we are expected to deliver to the people of Kenya? It is not even to the government, actually. It's just that now, for those of us who support the government side, you have to push the agenda of government, because that is the mandate upon which the people who put you in office expect. That you are a Jubilee member of parliament, and because you are a Jubilee member of parliament and Jubilee has an agenda, you push it. Now, we have our friends who are from the minority side coming to join our agenda. Remember, they actually came to support our agenda. They came to support the issue of unity. They came to support the issue of ensuring resources are allocated effectively. They came to support the issue of ensuring that when we get into politics, that we do not have violent campaigns. That is what they came to support. And I don't even know why people are arguing about that. I don't know why anybody would have a problem with that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. And Honorable Gunjiri, just quickly, I know none of you sits at the Senate, because we had invited Senator Ledamo Lekina, but he's unreachable this morning. So we've seen the standoff, the Senate not being able to resolve the stalemate on the revenue sharing formula. What do you think needs to happen at a time that there are those conflicting interests, party positions, but on the other side, there are the interests of different counties, especially those that feel that the census of 2019 favors them if the resources are to be shared based on population?
I think the first thing we have to accept is that we have to talk about why are resources shared. I think first and foremost, it's important for us to remember resources are shared so that Wanjiko or the ordinary Kenyan can get services to them. And ordinary Kenyans get services through a structure that either they come through national government or they come through the county government. Right now, what the Senate is in a deadlock on is a county-based allocation. The revenue that goes into the county. And they've been arguing about whether it's supposed to be a certain, in the formula that is supposed to share that allocation. Now, my only concern, and what makes me sad when I hear these conversations, is that I don't see as if these people are thinking about the people who put them in Senate. Remember, each of us was elected to represent a certain constituency or a certain county. The 47 senators, who are the ones who actually make a decision, who vote for or against this formula, are supposed to be representing the people who took them in there. I can understand somebody who's coming from a county that is losing money having a problem with this formula. What I don't understand is somebody who comes from a county that is actually gaining money, because it's taking money to your county, to the people who represented you. So when you stand up and say, no, I'm not going to support that because I'm sympathizing with my friend who comes from another county that is losing money, what I'm asking myself is that the message that your county, the people who voted for you, have sent you to Senate to go and represent? Are you telling me that they have told you, do not take more money for us until so-and-so gets more money for them? And then come from the fact that this particular formula that has been suggested has been brought forward based on certain parameters or certain aspects, the services that have been taken to those people. I hear people saying, okay, some parts have had development, their economic development is behind, and they need to get more money than other parts which have more people.
Right.
But remember, every county has a need.
Okay.
Some counties have an economic need. Some counties have a social need. Are you saying that the people who have social development needs should not get money that is required to develop their social aspects because others who have economic needs need that money? What are we saying?
Okay, all right, Honorable Gunjiri Wambogo, thank you so much for your views on that. And unfortunately, ladies, I'm not going to pick to take your views on this because you have to pave way for Sporty Monday, which is coming up next. So thank you so much, Gladys Wanga, Gladys Boss, and Gunjiri Wambogo. We were hoping that Senator Ledamo Lekina would join us, but he's not able to this morning. He's unreachable. But that's our time. Up next is Willis Raburu with a Sporty Monday. Up next.